HOA Karen's sneer could curdle milk, and she wielded it like a weapon as she stormed into Millie's diner, her flip-flops slapping the linoleum with the authority of a dictator. The bell above the door jingled, but it might as well have been a war drum announcing her arrival. The diner was a cozy, weathered haven in the heart of Willow Creek, its red vinyl booths and checkered floor a testament to simpler times. Regulars sipped coffee, their conversations a low hum, while the scent of fried onions and apple pie hung in the air. Karen, however, saw none of this charm. To her, the world was a battlefield, and she was its self-appointed general. At 300 pounds, her presence was impossible to ignore, her floral muumuu straining at the seams as she lumbered toward a booth, her eyes scanning for anything to complain about. The waitress, Emily, a 22-year-old with tired eyes and a kind smile, approached cautiously. She'd seen Karen's type before, the ones who demanded perfection but offered only contempt. "Welcome to Millie's," Emily said, her voice steady despite the sinking feeling in her gut. "Can I get you started with a menu?" Karen didn't look up from her phone, where she was furiously typing a Yelp review for a nail salon she'd visited an hour ago. "Coffee, black, and make it quick." "I don't have all day," she snapped, her tone dripping with disdain. Emily nodded, retreating to the counter, where she poured the coffee with practiced ease. She'd been working double shifts to pay for her night classes, and she wasn't about to let Karen's attitude ruin her day. But Karen had other plans. When Emily returned with the steaming mug, Karen barely glanced at it before shoving it back. "This is lukewarm garbage," she barked, loud enough for the entire diner to hear. "Do you even know how to do your job? Or are you just too stupid to pour coffee right?" Emily's cheeks flushed, but she kept her composure. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I'll get you a fresh cup right away." She turned to leave, but Karen wasn't done. "Don't walk away from me," she bellowed, rising from her seat, her chair scraping the floor. The diner fell silent, forks pausing midair, as all eyes turned to the spectacle. "You think you can just ignore me?" Karen continued, her voice rising to a shrill crescendo. "I'm a paying customer. I deserve respect." She pointed a manicured finger at Emily, who stood frozen, clutching the rejected coffee mug. The truck driver at the counter, a grizzled man named Hank, muttered something under his breath, while a teenage girl in the corner discreetly raised her phone, recording the scene. Emily took a deep breath, her voice calm but firm. "Ma'am, I'm trying to help you. Please, let me get you another coffee." But Karen wasn't interested in solutions. She wanted a fight. "You're useless," she spat, literally, a glob of saliva landing on Emily's apron. The diner gasped collectively, the air thick with shock. Emily's eyes widened, her hand trembling as she wiped the spit from her apron, her dignity hanging by a thread. "That's enough," a voice boomed from the back of the diner. All heads turned to see a man in his late 60s, dressed in a simple flannel shirt, standing up from a corner booth. His face was weathered but kind, his eyes sharp with authority. This was Judge Samuel Hargrove, though Karen didn't know it yet. To her, he was just another nobody interfering in her crusade. "Who do you think you are?" Karen snapped, turning her venom on him. "Mind your own business, old man." Samuel stepped forward, his presence commanding despite his unassuming appearance. "I am the owner of this diner," he said, his voice steady but laced with steel. "And you just assaulted my employee." Karen laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Assaulted? Please. She deserved it. Maybe if she did her job, I wouldn't have to teach her a lesson." She crossed her arms, her smugness practically radiating. The teenage girl's phone was still rolling, capturing every word. Samuel's eyes narrowed. "You don't get to decide who deserves what. Not here." He turned to Emily, his tone softening. "Are you okay?" Emily nodded, though her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Go take a break," Samuel said gently, then turned back to Karen. "As for you, I suggest you leave. Now." Karen's face twisted into a mask of indignation. "Leave? I'm not going anywhere until I get an apology and a free meal." She planted her feet, as if daring anyone to challenge her. The diner was a powder keg, every patron waiting to see what would happen next. Samuel didn't flinch. You're not getting an apology. And you're not getting a meal. What you're getting is a one-way ticket out of my diner. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number, his voice calm but firm. Sheriff, it's Sam Hargrove. I've got a situation at Millie's. Assault and disorderly conduct. Can you send someone over? Karen's smirk faltered, but she doubled down. You're bluffing. You can't have me arrested for spitting. That's ridiculous. She turned to the other patrons, expecting support. Can you believe this guy? Thinks he's some big shot. Hank, the truck driver, leaned back in his seat, his voice gruff. Lady, you spit on a kid just trying to do her job. You're lucky he's only calling the sheriff. The teenage girl, still recording, nodded in agreement, her thumbs flying as she uploaded the video to X with the caption, Karen goes wild at Millie's diner. Justice served. Within minutes, the sheriff's cruiser pulled up outside, its red and blue lights casting an eerie glow through the diner's windows. Sheriff Daniels, a no-nonsense woman with a steely gaze, stepped inside. What's going on here, Sam? She asked, her eyes locking onto Karen, who was now visibly sweating. Samuel recounted the incident, his voice measured but unyielding. Emily, who had returned from the back, quietly confirmed the story, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. The teenage girl, whose name was Mia, offered her phone as evidence, the video already gaining traction online. Karen's bravado crumbled as Sheriff Daniels approached. Ma'am, you're under arrest for assault and disturbing the peace, the sheriff said, pulling out her cuffs. Karen's eyes widened, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. This is outrageous, she sputtered. Do you know who I am? I'm HOA Karen. I'll sue this whole town. Sheriff Daniels didn't blink. You can tell it to the judge. Oh, wait. She glanced at Samuel, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Looks like you already did. As Karen was let out in handcuffs, the diner erupted in murmurs. Some patrons clapped, others shook their heads in disbelief. Emily stood by the counter, her shoulders relaxing for the first time all evening. Samuel placed a hand on her shoulder. You did good, kid. Don't let people like her get to you. Emily managed a small smile. Thanks, Mr. Hargrove. I didn't expect this. None of us did, Samuel said, his eyes scanning the diner. But sometimes, people like her need a reminder that actions have consequences. Outside, Karen's protests echoed as she was loaded into the cruiser. The video Mia posted was now trending, with comments pouring in. Karma's real. And don't mess with Millie's. By morning, Karen's face was plastered across local news sites, her arrest a cautionary tale for entitled bullies everywhere. Back in the diner, Emily returned to her work, her smile a little brighter. Hank left her a generous tip, and Mia, still buzzing from the drama, promised to come back for the pie. Samuel sat back in his booth, sipping his coffee, his eyes on the door as if daring another Karen to try their luck. The world kept turning, and Millie's diner remained a haven for those who valued kindness over cruelty. For HOA Karen, though, the lesson was bitter. Her reign of terror ended not with a crown, but with cuffs. And in Willow Creek, that was justice enough.